FBI says you're a member of the Colombo Mafia family.
Franzese was a mob captain before 25, but he wasn't the only young Mafia boss. Giovanni killed without flinching. Air Crispino admitted he lost count of his bodies, and the Fat Man has been on the most wanted list since '98. These are the youngest mobsters, and where they are now. Michael Franzese. Michael Franzese represents perhaps the most successful transition from mob life to legitimate society. He is the son of John Sonny Franzese, a notorious underboss of the Colombo crime family.
Yeah, I was a pre-med student. I was an athlete. I had no desire to become a member of his life, mainly because my dad didn't discuss it with me. So to me, I'm playing ball. You know, if you said to me as a kid, you know, who would I like to emulate, what would I like to be? I wanted to play center field for the New York Yankees. You know, Mickey Mantle was kind of my guy. But so no, I didn't aspire to be in that life, but I was going to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to go to medical schools.
When his father was sentenced to 50 years for bank robbery in 1967, Michael dropped out of his pre-med program at Hofstra University to support his family financially, marking his entry into the Colombo family's operations.
Well, my dad was indicted several times in the early 60s, 3 serious charges in the state of New York, and he went to trial, beat them all, you know. But then he was indicted in federal court for masterminding a nationwide string of bank robberies. Convicted, sentenced to 50 years in prison. 50. Which was kind of a death sentence for him at that point.
Franzese's formal induction into the Colombo crime family occurred on October 31st, 1975, through a blood oath ceremony, making him a made man. By 1980, at age 29, he became a caporegime captain, overseeing a crew of 300 members. What set Franzese apart was his incredible ability to generate revenue. By 1986, Fortune magazine ranked him 18th on its list of the 50 most wealthy and powerful mafia bosses, and Vanity Fair noted him as one of the mob's biggest earners since Capone. At his peak, Franzese claimed to generate $8 million per week.
Yeah, it was actually the gas business. And we built that up to selling 500 million gallons of gas a month, and we were taking down 20, 30, 40 cents a gallon depending upon the deal. So, you know, it was very lucrative. We brought in, you know, at times $7, $8, $10 million a week. I mean, it was that big, yeah. It was a big operation.
His most notorious operation was a gasoline tax fraud scheme in the early 1980s, orchestrated with Lawrence Salvatore Iorizzo. This operation supplied 1/3 to 1/2 of all gasoline in the New York metropolitan area, generating an estimated $250 million annually in stolen tax revenue. In March 21st, 1986, Franzese pleaded guilty to racketeering and tax conspiracy, receiving a 10-year federal prison sentence and $14.7 million in restitution.
You know, leaving that life was one of the, if not the most difficult decision I ever made, because look, I took the oath very seriously. I'm my father's son. I love my dad. I would go to sleep at night leaving the life, wake up going back in. I mean, I was so torn. It was so difficult emotionally for me, because I didn't want to be known as a guy that betrayed an oath, whether it was right or wrong.
Today, Franzese has completely transformed his life, becoming a motivational speaker, author of books like Quitting the Mob and Blood Covenant, and running Franzese Wines. He shares his redemption story at schools, prisons, churches, and corporate events, emphasizing personal transformation. Franzese had charm, but the next guy had a lot of bodies. This underworld boss casually admitted to at least 19 murders, and that's just what he remembers. Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano. Salvatore Gravano became one of the most powerful underbosses in Mafia history before becoming its most famous informant. Growing up in a working-class Italian family, Gravano's parents ran a legitimate dress factory, and there was nothing in his early family environment that pointed toward organized crime.
I have very normal parents, legitimate people. My mother was a seamstress. My father was a painter. Back then they had lead in the paint. He couldn't paint anymore, got lead poisoning. And he started working with my mother. They opened up a small dress factory.
Nicknamed the Bull for his tenacity, he struggled with dyslexia, leading to poor academic performance, and joined the Ramper Street Gang at 13.
No, I didn't have anything wrong with my family. Like I said, they were good, hardworking people, very, very legitimate people. Now, I was dyslexic. I had trouble in school. I got kicked out of school. I joined the gang, the Rampers. So that was where I learned the streets, stuff like that, but not from my family.
Gravano's ascent in the Mafia began in the 1960s with petty crimes, catching the eye of local mobsters in Brooklyn's crime-heavy Bensonhurst. He started as an associate with the Colombo crime family under Carmine Persico, before transitioning to the Gambino crime family under Capo Salvatore Totto Aurello. Gravano's pivotal moment came in 1985 when he joined John Gotti, Angelo Ruggiero, Frank DeSico, and Joseph Armone in plotting the murder of Gambino boss Paul Castellano outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan. The unsanctioned hit, driven by Castellano's perceived weakness and internal disputes, propelled Gotti to boss and Gravano to underboss by the late 1980s. At his peak, Gravano earned $20 million annually, controlling Manhattan's construction industry through bid, manipulation, real estate investments, and union corruption.
When you're controlling the unions, you're controlling the big construction jobs, 50, 60, $70 million high-rise jobs and stuff like that. So you're having a lot of power. So they know that I'm controlling that kind of power.
What made Gravano particularly feared was his capacity for violence. His admitted involvement in 19 murders underscores his role as a hitman and enforcer. His first murder in 1970 was Joseph Colucci, a Colombo associate plotting an unauthorized hit, which Gravano described as a transformative moment. In 1977, he killed a 16-year-old bystander who witnessed a drive-by shooting, showcasing his ruthlessness. The 1985 Castellano assassination, orchestrated with Gotti, was his most infamous act, shifting power within the Gambino family. He also orchestrated the 1990 murder of Eddie Garofalo, among others. Facing life imprisonment in 1991, Gravano became the highest-ranking Mafia member to break omerta, testifying against Gotti and 38 other mobsters. His cooperation led to Gotti's life sentence in 1992 and weakened the Mafia's structure, prompting more defections. After leaving witness protection in 1995, Gravano returned to crime in Arizona, running an ecstasy trafficking ring with his family, earning $500,000 weekly. Arrested in 2000, he was convicted in 2001 and sentenced to 20 years, serving until 2017. As of 2024, his net worth is estimated at $500,000, a sharp decline from his Mafia wealth. He now runs a podcast, Our Thing, and wrote a book, Underboss, sharing his experiences. Sammy the Bull flipped to save his skin, but he wasn't the only one. The next boss had to do the same thing, turn rat, name names, and hope it was enough. Michael Mickey Scars DiLeonardo. Michael Mikey Scars DiLeonardo rose to the rank of caporregime in the Gambino crime family before becoming a government informant who testified against over 80 mobsters in a record 15 trials. DiLeonardo's ascent in the Gambino crime family was rooted in his deep ties to organized crime, beginning with his family's Mafia connections. His grandfather, Vincenzo DiLeonardo, was a captain in the Brooklyn faction under Salvatore D'Aquila, the boss of bosses in the early 1900s. A dog attack at age 10 left a facial scar, earning him the nickname Mikey Scars. Growing up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, he was exposed to mob life early, meeting Gambino boss Carlo Gambino as a child at his grandfather's house. In 1980, at age 25, he opened a social club near Paul Castellano's Veterans and Friends Club in Brooklyn, which became a hub for his bookmaking, loan sharking, and gambling operations. On December 24, 1988, DiLeonardo and Junior Gotti were inducted into the Gambino family in a Manhattan ceremony led by Salvatore Gravano. After John J. Gotti's 1992 conviction, DiLeonardo was promoted to caporregime in the resulting power shakeup. He took control of Gravano's construction and trucking rackets, including the 18th Avenue crew. DiLeonardo's criminal activities were extensive, spanning extortion, racketeering, stock fraud, loan sharking, murder conspiracies, and actual murders. In the 1990s, DiLeonardo and Junior Gotti extorted topless bars across New York, Atlanta, and Florida, with him receiving large payoffs, including $100,000 from Manhattan Scores Club in 1995 and $70 million from Atlanta's Gold Club between 1988 and 1997. DiLeonardo admitted to involvement in 3 murders or murder conspiracies. In 1989, he helped arrange the murder of Fred Weiss, a sanitation business owner, on orders from John Gotti Sr. Arrested in June 2002 for racketeering, DiLeonardo was shelved by acting boss Peter Gotti, who cut off his income, prompting feelings of betrayal. He cooperated with the FBI in 2003, entering the Witness Protection Program. The psychological toll of his criminal life became evident in his later interviews.
Oh, I don't sleep. I sleep an hour, 2 hours, 3, 4 hours tops. When I'm up every night for the last 12 years. I don't get a good night's sleep ever.
When asked about what bothered his conscience, DiLeonardo revealed the depth of his internal conflict.
My conscience bothers me.
What does your conscience bother you about?
The damage that I've done to some people that I loved in the street, friends that I like very much, and just my legacy, what I was born into and raised into, and every fiber of my body that I gave up.
John Gotti Jr. When most young men in their 20s are building their careers and starting families, John Angelo Gotti was inheriting one of the most powerful criminal organizations in America. Born into the most infamous crime family in New York, John Jr.'s path seemed predetermined from the moment he took his first breath in Queens. The world John Jr. grew up in was one where violence was currency and loyalty was everything. His father, John Joseph Gotti Sr., had become the boss of the Gambino family after orchestrating the 1985 murder of Paul Castellano, making headlines not just for his ruthlessness, but for his flamboyant style that earned him the nickname the Dapper Don.
My father was my cause. If my father wasn't in that life, I probably wouldn't have been in the street life either. Whatever he was is what I wanted to be.
Growing up in Howard Beach, young John was shielded from the brutal realities of his father's world, or so his family thought. The Gotti household maintained a facade of normalcy, but the constant presence of law enforcement surveillance made it impossible to completely separate family life from the streets.
Almost on cue, this brown Lincoln Continental Mark IV with smoked windows at the time when nobody had smoked windows comes rolling down the street. And it stops right by me. And the window rolls down. And I turn and I says, "There's my father." Everybody was in shock.
When his father was convicted of racketeering and murder in 1992 and received a life sentence, the mantle of leadership fell to John Jr., who was designated as acting boss at the remarkably young age of 28. This wasn't just a ceremonial title. Jr. was now responsible for overseeing a criminal enterprise that generated hundreds of millions of dollars annually and employed hundreds of made men and associates.
I was a street guy. I was in the streets.
Okay.
And, you know, when my father embraced me and put his arm around me and looked at me as a street guy, as a knock-around guy, a bounce-around guy like himself, proudest moment of my life. It's the proudest moment of my life. It's because I was slowly becoming like him.
Jr.'s criminal activities were extensive. It included racketeering, extortion, loan sharking, and bookmaking. He was implicated in overseeing illegal activities in construction, nightclubs, and garbage hauling in New York, with authorities seizing documents from his Queens office, including a list of made members, underscoring his leadership role. But unlike his father, who reveled in the spotlight and seemed to enjoy the cat-and-mouse game with law enforcement, Jr. found the weight of leadership increasingly burdensome.
Before I had my children, I really didn't care if I died in jail. But then once you have children, your perspective completely changes. Now you live your life for them.
The pressure of leading the family while facing constant federal scrutiny took its toll. In 1999, facing overwhelming evidence, he accepted a plea deal, receiving a 6.5-year sentence for racketeering and forfeiting significant assets. Between 2004 and 2009, he faced 4 additional racketeering trials, including charges related to a plot to kidnap Curtis Sliwa, all ending in mistrials due to insufficient evidence or hung juries. Today, John Jr. has largely succeeded in what many thought impossible, leaving the mob. Since his release, he has distanced himself from organized crime, focusing on family life in Oyster Bay Cove, Long Island. If you think mob empires are built in the shadows, think again. The next underworld boss made millions through industries you probably interact with every single day without ever knowing it. Diego Danny Tantio. Diego Danny Tantio represents a new generation of organized crime figures. Born in 1975, this 48-year-old from Freehold, New Jersey, exemplifies how the traditional Italian-American mafia has adapted to modern times while maintaining its core structure and values. Tantio's formal induction into the Gambino crime family occurred on October 17, 2019, alongside James LaForte, marking his transition from associate to soldier. This ceremony represented a significant milestone in organized crime, requiring Italian descent, sponsorship by another made man, and adherence to the Mafia's code of silence, omerta. What makes Tantio's story particularly fascinating is how he built his criminal empire in industries that most people interact with daily. His rise involved building relationships with key figures like Joseph Lani, an alleged Gambino captain, to whom Tantio and other soldiers reportedly kicked up hundreds of thousands of dollars, including over $1.5 million in purported loans derived from criminal proceeds. Tantio's criminal activities focused on infiltrating New York City's carting and demolition industries through violence, intimidation, and fraud. The scope of his operations was staggering in its audacity and complexity. In the carting industry, Tantio, along with associates Vito Rappa, Francesco Vicari, and Kyle Johnson, allegedly extorted a carting business owner, demanding monthly payments of $1,000 and using violent threats to ensure compliance. When the business owner attempted to stop payments in 2020, the group escalated their tactics, setting fire to the steps of his home while his wife and children were inside, damaging his company trucks, and assaulting an associate with a hammer. The violence wasn't random or chaotic, it was calculated and designed to send a message. Wiretapped conversations captured Tantio and Vicari discussing threats against the business owner's father-in-law, with Vicari likened to the last of the samurai for threatening to cut him in half with a knife to force payments. In the demolition industry, Tantio, with associates Robert Brook and Kyle Johnson, targeted a demolition company over alleged debts, demanding $40,000 from the owners and resorting to violence when payments were not made. When the owners resisted further demands, an associate jumped one of them on a midtown Manhattan street, causing facial injuries and a black eye. Tantio was arrested on November 8, 2023, in a coordinated U.S.-Italian operation targeting the Gambino crime family. He was granted a $5 million bond and released to home incarceration with electronic monitoring, barred from contacting co-defendants, witnesses, or victims. His charges carry significant penalties, with RICO conspiracy alone potentially leading to up to 20 years in prison if convicted. Tantio ruled on American soil, but the next name in this video operated exclusively in Italy and earned a reputation for killing with zero remorse. Giovanni Niki. Giovanni Niki is nicknamed Upicciutudu, which means the little boy due to his young age. This Sicilian mafia member was considered a leading figure in Palermo's Cosa Nostra despite his youth. The son of jailed mafioso Luigi Niki, Giovanni was literally born into the mafia. His ascent in Cosa Nostra was rapid, driven by his family ties and mentorship under Antonio Rotolo, a prominent boss in the Pagliarelli Mandamento. By his mid-20s, he was seen as a rising star, particularly after the 2006 arrests of major bosses like Bernardo Provenzano and Rotolo during Operation Gotha, which targeted Palermo's Cosa Nostra elite. Niki escaped arrest and assumed the role of regent of the Pagliarelli Mandamento, effectively managing its operations. What made Niki particularly dangerous was not just his criminal acumen, but his intelligence and strategic thinking. Rotolo treated Niki like a son, declaring in intercepted conversations that speaking to Niki was equivalent to speaking to him. This endorsement elevated Niki's status, earning him respect from other mafiosi despite his youth. Niki's criminal activities were extensive and violent. He was heavily involved in extorting local businesses, notably Chinese shopkeepers in Palermo, with intercepted conversations, revealing Rotolo instructing him on these operations, which were a key revenue source for the Pagliarelli Mandamento. Described as a pitiless killer by Italian Interior Minister Roberto Moroni, Niki was trained by Rotolo in assassination techniques, with bugged discussions detailing how to kill rivals. He was ordered to hunt down and kill Salvatore Lo Piccolo and his son Sandro, rivals of Rotolo, with plans to dissolve their bodies in acid. Niki also played a role in international drug trafficking, particularly through ties with the Gambino family in New York. Rotolo sent him to the U.S. to assess connections with Frank Colli, a Gambino associate linked to the Pizza Connection heroin trade. He was a fugitive on Italy's most wanted list from 2006 until his arrest on December 5, 2009 in Palermo. His convictions for extortion, drug trafficking, and mafia association, combined with his role in attempted murders, cemented his reputation as a dangerous figure. A 2025 appeal recognized continuity between his convictions, potentially allowing an earlier release. The next man in this video testified in 11 major trials. Nicholas Nicky Crow Caramandi. Nicholas Nicky Crow Caramandi, born around 1935 in Philadelphia, emerged as a key figure in the Philadelphia crime family during the violent reign of Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo in the 1980s. Starting as a street-level con artist and thief, Caramandi honed his criminal skills over decades, engaging in scams, gambling, and loan sharking. By 1971, he connected with Scarfo, then a rising mobster, and the two ran lucrative scams together, including operations that netted $15,000. Caramandi's loyalty loyalty and street smarts earned him Scarfo's trust, particularly after he took over loan sharking operations following a mob hit, ensuring profits went directly to Scarfo. His involvement in high-profile hits, like the 1983 murder of Pat Spirito, led to his induction as a made member of the Philadelphia family in 1984. As a hitman, Caramandi participated in numerous killings, including the 1983 murder of Pat Spirito, shot twice in the head for disloyalty. He was also involved in the Ricoben War, targeting Harry Rickabene's crew. Caramandi was central to Scarfo's extortion rackets, most notably a 1985 plot to extort $1 million from developer Willard Rouse for Penn's Landing construction permits. Alongside Councilman Leland Beloff and Robert Rigo, Caramandi pressured Rouse, who reported them to the FBI, leading to an undercover sting. While Scarfo's family directly engaged in narcotics, Caramandi and others taxed methamphetamine dealers, charging $2,000 per gallon of smuggled P2P, a meth precursor mislabeled as oil. This scheme netted significant profits without direct drug dealing. In 1986, fearing a hit ordered by Scarfo and facing over 20 years for the Rouse extortion, Caramandi turned government witness. His testimony in 11 trials led to 52 convictions, including Scarfo's for racketeering, murders, and extortion, earning him an 8-year sentence, reduced for cooperation, and entry into the Witness Protection Program. By 2015, Caramandi expressed regret for testifying, living modestly in hiding, far from his mobster lifestyle. The next mobster raked in over $50 million, all from bets and dirty cash. Vincent Basciano Jr. Vincent Basciano Jr., born around 1980, is the son of Vincent "Vinny" Gorgeous Basciano, a notorious former acting boss of the Bonanno crime family. Unlike his father, who rose to prominence in New York's Mafia underworld, Vincent Jr. did not achieve significant leadership in organized crime, but his criminal activities were substantial nonetheless. Vincent Jr.'s documented criminal activities primarily revolve around two major enterprises: a large-scale illegal gambling ring and a marijuana trafficking operation. In 2012, Vincent Jr. was implicated in a $50 million illegal betting ring that operated across 5 states, from New York to California. This mob-linked enterprise involved 25 individuals, including notable figures like Gadoon Spanky Carollos and the owners of Pinnacle Sports, a gambling website with global reach. The operation used offshore gambling websites, phone-based betting, and dummy accounts to evade detection, with couriers transporting cash profits to and from Panama and Costa Rica. Vincent Jr., along with his brothers Stephen and Joseph Basciano, was involved in a large-scale marijuana trafficking operation that shipped cannabis from California to New York. This enterprise was described as a long-running drug ring, indicating sustained criminal activity over several years. In 2014, Vincent Jr., then 32, pleaded guilty to participating in the marijuana trafficking enterprise. His plea deal with federal prosecutors resulted in a prison sentence of 46 to 57 months. His brothers, Stephen and Joseph, made similar plea deals, receiving comparable sentences. After serving his sentence for the marijuana trafficking conviction, likely released around 2017 to 2018, there are no recent public records of further criminal activity or incarceration as of June 20, 2025. Unlike his father, who was a high-profile figure known for his flamboyant style and mafia leadership, Vincent Jr. is a relatively minor figure in organized crime narratives. Basciano Jr. may have kept his hands clean, but this next guy confessed to so many murders, he literally lost count. Maurizio Abatino. Maurizio Abatino was a key figure in the Banda della Magliana, a notorious criminal organization active in Rome from the late 1970s to the early 1990s. Nicknamed Air Crispino due to his curly black hair, Abatino grew up in the Magliana neighborhood and attended school in Palestrina. Abatino's criminal career began in the early 1970s with minor offenses like robbery, culminating in his first arrest in 1972 for robbery, resistance to arrest, and possession of burglar's tools. By 1974, he faced a double murder charge but was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. His early activities in the Magliana and Portuense areas laid the groundwork for his leadership in the Banda della Magliana, which he co-founded with Franco Giuseppucci and others in 1977. The group's formation was solidified after a stolen car incident led to a partnership with Giuseppucci's crew, including Enrico De Pettis, establishing a batteria criminal cell with commitments to solidarity and exclusive cooperation. Abatino's strategic alliances, including with the Camorra's Raffaele Cutolo in 1978 expanded the Banda's influence, particularly in drug trafficking, making it Rome's most powerful criminal organization. The Banda's first major crime under Abatino's involvement was the 1977 kidnapping of Massimiliano Grazioli Lante della Rovere. Due to inexperience, they collaborated with a Montespaccato gang, but the operation ended in the victim's murder after he saw a captor's face. The group secured a 2 billion lira ransom, reinvested into further criminal ventures. Abatino admitted to multiple killings, stating he could not count them but remembered the names of his victims. His group was responsible for numerous assassinations, often targeting rivals or traitors. Notable cases include the 1980 killing of Enrico Ercane Proietti, a revenge act against the cousins of Giuseppucci's killers. After his arrest in 1992 in Caracas, Venezuela, he became a pentito, which means collaborator with justice, providing critical information about the Banda's operations. His cooperation led to numerous convictions, but his removal from the witness protection program forced him to return to Rome, where he lives under house arrest, facing health issues and ongoing risks due to his past. And now, the final name on our list vanished in 1993, landed on Italy's most wanted list in '98, and still hasn't been caught. Giovanni Motisi. Giovanni Motisi is a prominent figure in the Sicilian Mafia known as Cosa Nostra. Nicknamed Upacciuni, the Fat Man, he hails from the Altarello neighborhood in Palermo and succeeded his uncle Matteo Motisi as head of the Motisi Mafia clan and boss of the Pagliarelli Mandamento. Motisi's ascent within Cosa Nostra began in the 1980s during the Second Mafia War, a period of intense internal conflict led by Toto Riina and the Corleonese faction. He rose through the ranks as a loyal enforcer and killer for Riina, participating in high-profile assassinations that solidified the Corleonese's dominance. After Riina's arrest in 1993, Motisi aligned himself with Bernardo Provenzano, Riina's successor, who adopted a less violent, more business-oriented approach to mafia operations. This alliance strengthened Motisi's influence as Provenzano's strategy focused on infiltrating legitimate businesses and reducing overt violence to evade law enforcement scrutiny. Motisi was a primary enforcer for the Corleonesi, implicated in numerous killings during the 1980s. He received a life sentence for the 1985 murder of Beppe Montana, head of Palermo's investigative unit, in a massacre where he and a team of 9 killers fired over 200 Kalashnikov rounds, also killing one of Montana's escort officers. Under Motisi's leadership, the Motisi clan likely engaged in drug trafficking, a lucrative enterprise for Cosa Nostra, particularly in cocaine and heroin distribution across Europe. Extortion, including demands for protection money from local businesses, remains a staple of mafia operations in Palermo. A fugitive since 1993, he has been on Italy's most wanted list since 1998, with a life sentence for multiple crimes. His ability to remain at large for over 3 decades highlights his cunning and the mafia's entrenched support systems. Liked this video? Click on the cards showing on your screen for more.